Hey everyone, this is Snark's Domain, and we are back at it again. Today we're going to do the Putty Pro. Last night I just wanted to do a confirmation run of the Putty Advance just to see maybe if I had like too little. Well, I'm confident I didn't, but I decided to do a second run anyways, and I did all 3 tests, and let's look at that. So this one, let's see, these ones here were the original run that we did, and then I added some more putty and then ran the tests last night and up until today. So yeah, I mean, let's look at the temperatures here. These are the ambient deltas. We got core, VRAM here, and hotspot. So the hotspot deltas are a stone's throw cooler. These 2 tests, the same there for Kapow at 309 watts, and then these ones, it basically, by adding a bit more putty, and we'll see it once we open the card up, I was able to shave off, 0.3 of a degree Celsius improvement by having a bit more. So yeah, I just figured let's do a confirmation run just to see if much changes. It's pretty similar, right? Putty 62.8, 62.8, 50.3 before, 49.9, 53.9, 53.6. So not much has changed. So yeah, that is that. Let's oh yeah, this is the kapow. You can see the test I ran. Anyways, let's crack open this card and we'll take a look at it. We'll clean it up. We'll salvage the putty. Mr. Code String, how's it going? Good to see you. Guess I still look for these ones. It's definitely been it's a busy time of year. So I had like my work Christmas party, and then yesterday I had, what all did we do? We went to a movie with the wife for a little like not really a date night, it was date afternoon. And then we went to another Christmas party with some friends, and brought our daughter along, and it was a very good spread of food. Yeah, actually I was pretty impressed with the massive selection that they had prepared, so it was fun. And yeah, tomorrow we're going to the mountains, all of us. There's going to be like 11 of us, and yeah, it's going to be fun time for the family over the holidays. You're doing pretty well. Just occasionally hunting for deals to build a computer for someone, acquiring some of the secondary components that don't lock me into a system. Yeah, I can respect that for sure. You got to look for those deals, and there should be some decent ones. You would hope this time of year. Okay, so you can see I've definitely had. I was on the excess side this time with having more putty, but that's what the change I saw was, the 0.3 of a degree roughly. So we are going to salvage the putty. There's a couple little dirty bits there I'm going to have to carve out. That's okay. I still have lots for testing. Basically, with this being 30 grams, and I don't actually know the density of this stuff. I don't think they have it listed on the box anywhere. I'll have to reach out and see if they're willing to provide the values for the densities. It would make it a lot easier for using the putty calculator if folks are wanting to do that, and just to know how much to buy. The density will change how much you need to buy. The higher the density, the more grams needed to fill the same space. That's what the putty calculator, one of the things it does. The other thing is it tells you the log diameter to use, if you know the original pad thickness or the gaps. It gives you a method of getting it pretty bang on. Or, you know, if you just want to have fun with putty and wing it, like I don't have anything against that either. I find it fun to do that, and it doesn't have to be a stressful thing, but it can be sometimes. But yeah, just have fun with it if you want to too. Lots of ways to do putty. There was someone that did a post on Reddit, and then and they used it quite a generous amount. It was a lot. It was quite a lot. But I could just tell they were having fun with it. So yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be a stressful thing. But if you want to get it precise, we have that option too, right? Whether you use my calculator or you do trial and error test fits, that's lots of ways to get it like bang on if you're wanting to. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out. Yeah, would be interesting Coaching says, would be interesting to snag some used GPU if some good offers out somewhere. Yeah, I think you'll see, right, with the 5000 series, well, I guess 50 series from NVIDIA is what we'd call it. Sorry, the core contact looked really good to me there. Before I wipe it off the core, let's zoom in. I should have done that with the cooler. It's pretty good. It's maybe just a slight... It's not even that heavy. It's pretty decent application. Yeah, I bet you have some putty and PTM to go through for sure. I've got an A770 in my wife's gaming computer, and I was doing some tests on it, I guess yesterday, the day before. I don't know, everything's a blur right now. And the temperatures for the memory junction were, well, they were higher than I thought they should be. But then again, it was on the auto fan curve. But I'm thinking of opening that up and putting some putty in it. It's currently just on the factory thermals and everything. But I think it's time pretty soon for that. I've got to work on a few videos too. So this putty, it's not bad for cleanup. The hardest part on this one is just going to be these little gaps between the VRAM. Honestly, like normally, if you were opening a card and you were just wanting to repaste, if you're still deciding not to use a phase change, right, and then let's say the paste dries out or whatever, and you decide to open up your card. As long as the putty is soft enough to reshape, and if you know it's like a good performing product, I recommend reusing it. Yeah, you really don't have to replace it every single time, but it is good to reshape a little bit, make it like squeeze it, make it stand tall. You want it to get the final compression during assembly. That way you're guaranteeing contact. Don't try and flatten it like a thermal pad. Well, I'm recommending you that you don't, but there's people that do that as well. If you do that, you just want to make sure it's still a little bit thicker than where it's going to end up. You want it to contact the cooler and then squish a little bit. I prefer the log method, I think, because it's easier to guarantee, but I mean, everyone's going to do it however they prefer, and that's the beauty. You get to buy what you want. You get to do what you want, and that's half the fun. I mean, look at all the passion behind how to spread paste or not spread, or which method is best. You know, if you're going to go with paste, as long as you use some paste, that's good. And with phase change, like I've got what I recommend. And that's to go about 3 millimeters. Ooh, that's going to be spill. 3 millimeters smaller on all four sides. But you could do full coverage if you want, or you could have it bigger than the die. I just like the going smaller. It makes second peel a lot easier on a phase change. I find, and I need to get a couple of videos about that, just short ones. Doesn't need to be long like my putty guide. But yeah. It's taking me just a little bit to get this all cleaned up. But yeah, if you were reusing the putty, I guess that's what I was saying before. You don't have to... Don't bother cleaning the VRAM. Just trim out the the dusty bits of putty, right? If it's been in your card for a couple of years, you're going to notice some dust around the edges wherever the airflow is carrying that. Or maybe you've got really good filtration and it is like spotless and clean, then congratulations. That's a nice thing to have. But you don't have to clean the VRAM or the cooler if you were using the same. That's why I've left this strip here and there with the oils and this area here from the TG PP10. I used to clean that, and I was basically speeding up the drying out of it, but that putty is still formable. It's been a couple of years already, so it should stay pretty soft. Then again, there are cards where the MOSFETs run quite hot, and you can find where there are times where the putty that's on MOSFETs, depending on the putty too, they're all kind of different, but you might find that it's a little bit firmer on the MOSFETs after a couple of years, maybe even sooner. But that doesn't mean it's not transferring heat. And actually, the same happens for pads. You'll find pads that looked a little or feel a little firm and cooked on the MOSFETs. So that's something that's hard to get away from. But generally, gelling of putty doesn't happen until you reach higher temperatures. But again, that's sort of based on the quality of the silicone oil base. And I don't think manufacturers are going to tell you which one they're using, but they will list the stability specs. A lot of them are in the -40 to 200 degrees Celsius range. If you do see those specs, but there are some that are actually, you can get stuff that's much higher than that. It would be interesting to see a putty made from some of those more high temperature stable silicone oils. I'm willing to bet that they're going to be a little bit more resilient than the -40 to 200 Celsius oil. I have that hunch. Okay, I think that's pretty clean. We are going to apply this stuff with a syringe today, but I'm also going to handle it and see what it feels like. So we're going to put this is the Putty Advance. We're going to put this back in its box. DJ Barrow, welcome to the stream. And we've got Junbro Theoe, excuse me, or Theo. Hopefully I didn't, well, I definitely pronounced your name wrong, and I apologize, but that's a cool name. Welcome to the stream. Okay, I was a little bit thirsty there. Let's get some gloves. Okay, that's one glove. We're gonna have to use these ones today. These ones are quite thin. What is your initial thought about Grizzly Putty? My very first thought is welcome to Team Putty, Thermal Grizzly. That was my first thought. It is good. It is good to have competition and options, and wherever these putties end up performance-wise and usability, it's just really good to have options. There are places in the world where there's like certain marketplaces are like limited and you can't always buy stuff. Like I don't think you can buy things on AliExpress in India anymore, if I'm not mistaken. So there's that to consider. A little shovel here and just clean that up. Make sure there's no wheels on it. As far as the first two putties, and I'll probably rehash this all again in the final stream tonight when we take a look at the performance of this Putty Pro stuff, but I think the viscosity could be worked on just a touch. But I actually don't mind that there's the Putty Basic. I actually don't mind its consistency. It's good to have a putty that can get really thin and be on the stickier side. That's ideal for shims. I think that's also ideal for, well, I think shims is where I'm really liking the stickiness. It's going to grip that shim better and less chance of moving. You should try and protect a PCB with, you know, either Kapton tape or conformal coating if you're going to have metallic shims, just to prevent any shorting. But it's good to have a putty that'll fit that niche, and you don't need it to be super high performant at all. When you're using shims, you're trying to maximize the shim height, you want to minimize the putty, and putty, I think, personally, I think is better than paste in that application, but that's my personal preference, and we're going to test that too. But that's my go-to for putties. I've been using the Hallen's-Eye HY236, well, 256. I've got the green version. Right, 256 and 236 are the same, just different colors. Some paste on here. Jared Schroed, I think you'll find out in a few minutes. Angry Doggo, hello Snark. When will we know the results of the thermals? Born Again, 4 in a row. Welcome to the stream, Born Again. The thermals we're gonna know tonight. I'm gonna get like apply the putty, run the tests, and then we're gonna test, or yeah, process the numbers and stuff. We'll open the card and take a peek at it tonight. Update the charts. I'll be sure to actually post those to the Google Drive and in the Discord. Sorry, I just saw a little bit of sometimes it likes to get in places and hang out. Okay, let's do it. I think we have just enough time. My son looks like he's waking up, maybe. Okay, so we've cracked this open. TG Putty Pro, it's the gray one. I've already got a syringe pre-cut to 6 millimeters. Okay. Soft. It's softer than I was expecting it to be. I was thinking this one would be maybe on the slightly on the firmer end. No, it's not stiffer, it's softer than UTP-8. I gotta be honest, like I know that we want to have it compressible. It's a little bit on the softer than I would like. That doesn't mean anything for the performance of it yet, but I'm finding it like I'm sure it's gonna roll. It's It's sticky. That's what I mean. Sticky's not necessarily bad. I just wouldn't mind if it was like it's kind of sticking to. Well, yeah, and it. I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't hold together the way that I prefer to apply putty, which is rolling logs. I think you could still roll them, but we're definitely going to use the syringe today for application. See, there's I think that could be tweaked, and you could maintain the same performance. Really, just add your finest one, and that'd be fine. Sorry. So, I think I've got enough in there. We are going to grab a little one of these guys. Yeah, we're just gonna... it's going to apply with a syringe probably easier than rolling it for this putty in its current state. I'm quite confident that Thermal Grizzly will be watching this video at some point, but if not, I'll reach out to them and kind of let them know. I'll touch base with them and say, in a written form, kind of what any advice I have. And whether they listen to that or not, that's no big deal. I realize I'm just some random dude on the internet, so... Okay, so we got putty applied, and it's like a semi-generous amount. You can tell it's going to be larger than 6 mils. Is it stiffer than UX Pro? The AliExpress ups are not the CSGR. No, UX Pro, and I need to buy some more just to check if they've changed the batches or not, but UX Pro is definitely stiffer. Where to get those syringes? These ones, I get 10 packs on Amazon Canada for like, I don't know how much they cost. It's like $16 for 10. Yeah, it's $1.50 a piece Canadian. They're the 60 milliliter ones. They start off at around... Well, here's the brand. Or it just says disposable syringe with catheter tip. Let me just, I'm curious what the smallest nozzle size is. Just so that you guys are aware. Calipers. Okay. Alright, so right around that 4.15 millimeters. That's a useful way. You just have to, like, cut it back. 6 mils is right around here. And then it's a linear cone, so you could probably just, like, estimate it. But 4.15 at the tip, and about 6 at the 40% mark. And 5 would be in there, and you could adjust as needed. You could do it that way, and if I was using this putty, like I'm finding this hard to roll currently. Maybe I kind of hope that they change that. So, and that won't. They could do it without even affecting the performance, or it might even have like a minor boost if they do it a certain way. They'll know what I'm talking about, I think. But I'll write that to them and let them know. Yeah. Okay, we got that. There's no dust on there. We're going to do the tilt test. It's definitely sticky enough to hold upside down, so I'm not worried there. We're going to tuck these cables in. Okay. as far as compressibility, I'll measure that in a second once we get this card back together. We'll get some on the calipers and see what they say for minimum bond line thickness. Yeah. But judging on the consistency, I can tell it's going to be not, I don't think it's going to be a messy putty during when I take it apart. I think it'll be similar to Putty Advance, where when we took the card apart, you could tell that the putty all stayed on one side, and there wasn't those stalagmites and stalactites. I think I said the wrong word the other day. The jaws of putty. So it's only the softer, runnier putties that do that in general. To a degree, let's see. Is this stuff rollable? It's going to be hard to roll this putty, guys, in its current state. You can roll it, but it's a little bit too sticky and a little bit too soft. And then when you roll the logs, you can't pick them up. You have to, like, you'd probably have to have one of these and, like, scoop up the log. And not, if you hold it up like this, it's just going to drape down. There are other soft putties that still manage to hold together and still get to their minimum thickness that they can do. So I'm just trying to make these equal height, and then we start the star pattern, and then I'll read the comments. Is it now? It's 2 p.m. my time, so at least 6 hours, but realistically 7. Be 9 p.m. my time. Hopefully I'll be back with you guys in like 7 or 8 hours, and we'll do the teardown and processing the numbers then. Yeah, should be interesting to see what this thing does. I'm expecting good things. The trajectory, and also looking at the results that Igor got. Igor's Laps has already tested these 3, so you guys should definitely check his results out too. Don't just judge stuff based on my results. There's other sources of information out there, so the UX Pro I have is quite stiff. Yeah, and I recommended, Sir Apocalypse, welcome to the stream. I recommended to them that they make UX Pro softer, and they agreed that they would probably look at that, but they had to work through whatever they had in inventory at the time, which I think was quite a bit, so I don't know. Thomas Stanislawski, welcome to the stream. Tom for short. Hello, Tom. Hi, Snark. New viewer here, loving the content. What would your recommendation be for the best bang for buck PCM and thermal putty for my first venture? No shims yet? Question mark. Ooh. It depends what the device that you're going to put them on and what kind of gaps it has. There are laptops that there are some laptops that have very thin gaps, and where you might be able to make the higher end putties work, but typically the top of the chart putties have a larger, what am I trying to say? They don't compress down as far, and that's actually going to be based on a couple things, but mostly particle size. Also, their viscosities, right? They're squeezing as much performance as they can. It's hard to make a high performing putty at that level and still have it, squish down below 0.1 of a millimeter. Is it possible? Well, I'm going to find that out myself at some point. We got the card together here. Yeah, let's read some question. Where am I going to put this thing? Somewhere where it can't fall. So my advice would be, and it depends where you live too, and like the cost and stuff. Price is a thing, but there are a lot of options. Yeah, they're and the best PCM. I still need to do some more PCM testing too. Nicholas Clifford, as soft as they can make it, might be more helpful to keep components like VRM and caps from having any pressure on them. To a point, yeah. Angry Dog, man, I think the putty looks a bit too soft. Yes, is going to be pain to work with if using the sausage method. I would agree with that. And I'm hoping maybe they adjust that a little bit. I mean, isn't regular pads going to have more pressure even than... Yes, they 100% they are. So all of these putties, including UX Pro, are still softer than the softest pad that I've tested, which is Fahonda 15 watt. You can take Fahonda 15 watt pads and ball them up in your hand and almost use it like a makeshift putty, and it is way stiffer than UX Pro. And that's... Well, and it's stiffer than CXH 1300, like the recent batches that have been stiff and not that great. So you're definitely correct there, Mr. Angry Doggo. Parps, you applied LTP 81 in your DDR5. It makes me wonder how well it compares to pads because it squishes so easily and there's little pressure on the components. Feels like black. Man, it is black magic. This stuff's crazy. Jinbro Fuel. Is this TG Putty Pro putty costs like 44 US for 30 grams? Yes, that's the one, the Putty Pro. Right. They can work on the price for sure. That's up to them. Whether they, I don't want to talk about whether Thermal Grizzly would like to adjust their price. That's up to them. Parps, I've gotten used to more pad compression equals better heat transfer. Yeah, because you're making the pad denser by compressing it, but that's taking away from your core pressure and contact. With putties, if you look at the chart, like, I know my testing isn't like bulletproof perfect. It's as good as I can currently manage to make it. Well, and I am making improvements and going to be testing all of this stuff again on Testbench 3, which I think is even further improvement from my current setup in a lot of ways. And we'll do this all again. But I think my chart is like a rough, here's where things are roughly going to end up. Do I expect things to shift around a little bit when I retest it on Testbench 3? I do, because the level of resolution that we're going to have on memory junction temperatures is much finer, and some of these putties are only like 0.01 degrees Celsius different in their delta temps. So yeah, there's going to be a little shuffling. I don't think anything's going to move 2 or 3 degrees, to be honest. I think things will move like half a degree, maybe somewhere in there. Maybe 1 degree, I don't know, but not. It's definitely not 30 degrees. Sorry K5 Pro. You're not invited to the top of the chart unless you improve your product there. Yeah, it's TG Pro is like $40. Junbro Fuel says, hope it could show worth extra price compared to... Yeah, and it might. Maybe this stuff will be amazing. Maybe they'll be better than Honeywell HT10000, which would be impressive, by the way. That is setting the bar high. And guys, keep in mind, we have Honeywell HT11000. That's going to be accessible at some point. So I expect that to be better than HT10000. I would think you wouldn't expect Honeywell to come up with a hypothetically improved putty and for it to perform worse. You'd expect it to perform better. So yeah, again, found them. 10 pack, 60 mil, $13.99. Nice. Yeah, they're pretty good. Angry Doggo, how hard do you have to screw those pressure screws in? The spring screws, you're talking about these ones, eh? These 4 here. Because some GPUs have that X bracket, right? Or like the little square and then the X. I screw these in doing the star pattern. I go till the screw stops. that's what I do, and what I recommend people to do. If you're doing a phase change, if you feel like it, if it's what you prefer, you could totally tighten them, say like 60% of the way, do your initial burn in if you wanted to, and then snug them up again. I've just been tightening them all the way, and same with the X bracket. I'll do the star pattern again there. With that, let's quickly do this though. Let's get a little bit of putty. Yeah, so that's what kind of what I was expecting. So this stuff is similar to other putties at the top of the chart, compresses to 0.14 of a millimeter. So keeping that in mind, if you were going with shims, you don't need the highest performing putty, because that means you have to leave more space for the putty and sacrifice on how thick of the shims that you're using. And you also want a little bit of wiggle room. You don't want to compromise your core contact pressure. So if you're going to go do shims, I'd recommend a softer putty that compresses down further. But that's I was kind of thinking it was going to end up around there for compression. Yeah, we'll read out a few more comments, and then I got to get this thing on the test bench here. Nicholas Clifford, the containers are great for shipping, but for how soft it is, it'd be nice if it already came in syringe. Yeah, if they're gonna keep this softness, then maybe. But if they do, please don't put it in a small nozzle syringe. Like, maybe the smallest the nozzle should be would be like 3.5 millimeters. Something like a paste syringe is too tight. I don't like that small of a nozzle. That's my preference. I'm obviously going to have an opinion about this stuff, and maybe there's differing opinions, and that's okay. But all I can do is voice what I think, I guess. What else we got here? There's a lot of chat. Zerpocalypse says, I bought mine some time ago, I still have plenty of it. Might replace the UX Pro I'm using to silence the inductors on my FE with CXH 1300, I'm assuming. Will this Putty TG Pro 30 gram sufficient for an RTX 4080? No, you're going to need to buy 2 of the containers if you want to do a video card. You can use my putty calculator, but keep this in mind, a 3070 with 8 gigs of RAM, 8 chips, took 44 grams. That was a Asus KO OC, the 2-fan for 3070. A 3090 uses 75 grams. I don't know the density of this stuff. It's got to be ballpark 3.5. Maybe it's 3.6, maybe it's 3.45. I'm not sure. But you're gonna, for a 4080, you're gonna want at least buy 50 grams of putty, and depending on the model, you said, I don't know if you have the model there. FE, no, 48 PCB. It's gonna be around 50. So if you buy 60 grams of this stuff, then you could do a whole card. Unless it's a 3090, then you're gonna need a bit more. You got tubs of both for sure. Thomas, or Mr. Tom, says, that makes sense. Desktop GPUs to start, I guess, so something firmer to replace thicker pads. I am not worried about this putty holding together. I just prefer something that's a bit firmer. Not so floppy, I guess. But again, that's my preference and how I prefer to roll logs and stuff. How many times property in how many times this GPU has been disassembled? At least 100 times, and I've lost track. And so sorry, I should have been tracking that, but it's a lot. We've had one thing that broke on it, one of the fan wires when I was testing LTP81. one of the PWM wires, or maybe the PWM wire, the blue one, lost contact. And so I ran the test for LTP 81, and 2 of the fans, instead of going at 85% at that like average 2592 RPM, they were going at 100%, and that brought the temperature down, and it got like an amazing result. And like, during the stream I was like, holy crap, like that's awesome, like top of the chart, there you go. And then I took the card apart, put it back together, and then I like just turned the computer on, and I noticed one fan wasn't spinning because it was just like the card was idling, and the other 2 fans were just going like 100%. And I was like, what? It took me a while to figure it out. And then I'm using the same fan. We spliced in a new connector, so the fan is still the same. I didn't want to change anything I didn't have to. So lots of times. Zerpocalypse Thermal Grizzlies PCM was quite good, but unfortunately I had a lemon, Lian, Lee, AIO, and wrapped, and a warped cold plate. Ooh, 2 full sheets was about 30 USD. That's not fun. Angry Doggo. People are going to buy it either way due to them having their name on it. Yeah, you know, people buy stuff based on lots of factors, and brand recognition is huge. Like, even with cars, right? If you were buying a Toyota, you're buying a Toyota because, well, maybe you like Toyotas, but there's that like, oh, it's quality and they're built to last forever. And you've got Jeremy Clarkson driving one to the North Pole and like dropping another one off of a building, and it's still starting, and they flooded it. Like, but are all Toyota vehicles built to the same quality? I don't know. You know, are all lower tier cars that don't have that brand recognition, are all of them bad? No. Are all Fords made the same? It depends like what year, what decade the Ford was made in. They've changed their quality too. But people buy stuff based on brand recognition for sure. And if you can build a brand and grow the consumer's trust, then you've achieved something. And yeah, it's going to be effective for sure. It's going to change it. MAFTB, math to be. How's it going, Vision? There's some really thick thermal pads on my GPU backplate, 2 to 3 milliliters. Is it worth replacing them with putty? So to be honest, on the backplate, you're going to use up a bunch of putty trying to do that. If you have a 3090 and you actually got VRAM, I recommend it for sure, putting putty on the VRAM, and you'll be able to see the result of that and the temperatures you achieve. But a lot of people just leave the pads. I like putting putty on there, but you guys have to understand, I have a couple kilograms of this stuff of different options, and I like putty, so and I've got tons of it, so of course I'm going to put it on the back plate. But if you wanted to save some money and leave the pads from the factory on the back plate, you could still do that and get away with just putting putty on the core side, where the core contact is going to be really important to try and get that pressure on there. Does LTP 81 have that spring back, where if I tighten too much? Yeah, it's sticky enough that it's going to, all of them do, except that one putty that I tried to take MG Chemicals 860, and then I added a bunch of boron nitride powder, and I made it like way too firm. It was like off the charts. That one didn't have much spring back, but all of them are going to have like enough of a grip to the surface to do that a little bit. And you can tell on all of my disassembly videos, when we take the card apart, if we zoom in and it looks like the putty, wherever it's stuck to, it's usually the cooler, has retracted in a little bit as we're pulling the card apart. It kind of like sucks in from the edges and like stands up a little bit and then finally releases. Even on the drier ones, like the, not dry, but the Putty Advance, it did that as well. They do have that spring back for the most part. Angry Doggo, bigger particle size is better, right? Bigger particle size is inevitable at the top of the chart. You can't make, I don't want to say can't. I don't think it's economical to make a top performing thermal putty without having larger particle size. You're trying to eliminate as much silicone oil and other ingredients as possible and fill as much of that space as you can with whatever powder materials you're using to boost performance. To the point which it's actually difficult to, like, you wouldn't be able to, like, make a, I don't know, boost a sample further much on its own. But I don't know what I'm saying. I usually do a double star pattern for the paste and get all the screws and tighten them 70%. Bottom out just to prevent uneven pressure. Yeah. Zerpocalypse with PCM and sufficiently spring-loaded mounting mechanism, though the material just squiggle out even with the screws fully inserted. Yeah, that's my go-to. I just tighten them all the way. That's what I've been doing. Can you show us your test bench? Yeah, I can. I'll send pictures and stuff to the thing. Kind of got my, like, baby monitor over there. I'm not going to move the camera over right now. But yeah, all it is an open frame. The GPU is mounted vertically. I'll kind of show you, like, roughly how I know this is not perfect, but okay. So if I think this is a temperature sensor. This is not the ones I use. I use the XPS-C ones hooked up into a Quadro. So let's see, kind of like this. I put a little piece of tape there. Again, the ones I'm using don't have the metal shroud. And then I put another one here, right? That's kind of on that 40-foot. This card is nice. It holds the sensor out, and I haven't had any issues with the fan sucking it in. So I'm logging in real time using HW info, and it takes a sample every 2 seconds of the ambient temperature, and that's all included in the data, which is really awesome. So it lets me log in real time. I don't have to look at a temperature gauge on the wall and say, oh, it's this, or I don't have to assume, oh, my house has an air conditioning and furnace, so it's always 21 or 22. No, I'm actually logging in real time for these. Build up one guy, you missed it. Sorry, dude. Have you seen or done a 6950 XT? Didn't consider that one. Packet might not be enough. Yeah, one's definitely not enough. And they say so on their site too, right? Ford is using wet timing belts in a lot of their engines now. Wet timing belts, like they go into the oil? Or wet timing belts, that's interesting. MAFTB, yeah, my XFX 7900 XTX came with putty on the dies. On the dies? Are you sure it's on the dies or on the VRAM? You don't want putty on the dies. It's not meant for that. That's crazy. Just trying to figure out if I can get it lower. If your hotspot 75 under stress testing is not bad, and those cards are known to have a 15-degree delta between core and hotspot. If you're within that 15 up to 20, it's kind of, you might see some improvement going with a PTM on the core, but you also might not. Rubber belt inside the engine casing running in oil. Are you serious? That's crazy. Yeah, rubber timing belts in the engine oil. That's, oh, okay, your VRAM. Yeah, there's lots of cards that come with putty from the factory. So, I mean, the people that are kind of shutting their eyes and saying, you know, putty's not a thing, and they're not saying that. But that's not fair of me to say. There's a lot of people that don't think putty is being adopted in the market, and it absolutely is. So, if you have a PS5, you've got putty. If you have a mobile phone, there's a decent chance you might have putty. Just depends on the phone, I guess. You have a gaming laptop. Nowadays, especially from Lenovo, Acer, probably some Dells. Yeah. AMD 7000 series cards have putty. Well, a lot of the EVGA cards from the 30 series had putty on the coils. So, guys, I think that is that's it for now. I was thinking generally, I'm not sure how much you get with U6 or UX either. There's some cheap putties that are accessible, so yeah. Well, pens, so it just surprised me. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. Let me get this card on the test bench, and then I'm going to do testing and family stuff for the next 6-7 hours. And I will be back on tonight, and we'll take a peek at the card. We'll crack it open, make sure everything looks good, and then crunch the numbers. And then I will update the charts, and I'll actually post them tonight. And then I'm going to go to the mountains with family for a few days for Christmas. So thanks again for tuning in. You guys have a great rest of your day. Snarks Domain out.